hello for those of you watching the replay. I'm just gonna give it a few seconds to see if Facebook shows this to anybody. I don't really know how my algorithm is doing since I was put in Facebook jail and blocked from doing videos and everything else. So I'll get started in just a minute, but welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a very important topic to me and to so many people today. Because of lots of things, right? But I mean, there's so many things happening in the world today. Specifically, though, we're having an epidemic of consciousness. There's a war on consciousness, and there's also an epidemic of mental health, right? If you're watching this, you're probably struggling in some way, shape, or form in your mental health. I know that I have, and I deal with things still today, Not nearly as bad as things used to be, or not nearly as dark as I've experienced in the past, or not nearly as severe, right? Because I've found tools and I found things to utilize, right? So this is really important to me because I appreciate being able to share this information with people and just share my story and just how this medicine has improved my life. So welcome to anyone that's hopping on. Please feel free to say hello. Don't be shy. Even if you're watching the replay, pop in and say hello. Let me know that you stopped by and I'll come back in the chat and say hello to you as well. I'm going to take a drink of water real quick and we'll get started. So I realize not a lot of people, or some people, might not know who I am already. So I'm going to do a quick intro and then I'll just hop into talking about mushrooms and about microdosing mushrooms. But my name is Kimberly Denise, and I used to say I'm a spiritual life coach or spiritual wellness coach, but I think I'm going to shift that over to cosmic because, a lot of people, and no offense to anyone that's in religion or things like that, but I'm just not really associating with religion anymore. So for me, it's more of like my spirituality is more of a cosmic spirituality now. So I'm a cosmic life, wellness, and business coach. My husband Shawal and I, we work with individuals to help them heal and optimize themselves using psychedelics and superfoods. And not always together, but when we do use them together, they're very, very powerful. So today's topic is microdosing mushrooms. Now, you might have seen articles, you may have seen posts, you may have seen videos or things going around talking about how people are microdosing mushrooms or utilizing mushrooms, and even in clinical settings, there's people using mushrooms to heal things like depression, like anxiety, like PTSD, like all these types of mental health disorders, and to even just become more creative or become more productive, or to just enhance their life or their athleticism or whatever it might be, right? There's so many different things coming to the surface and popping up out there. And so today I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experience. I don't consider myself any type of expert or anything like that. I'm not a mycologist. I'm very fascinated with mycology, and I have so much respect for Paul Stamets and so many people who are mycologists, but I'm not a mycologist. I have some friends that do mycology and stuff like that, and maybe down the line I might get into some of that. But so I'm not any kind of expert, but I'm just someone who, I'm a mom of 6, stay-at-home mom, work-at-home mom. I've experienced postpartum depression multiple times because of that, right? So I'm no stranger to those types of things. I was raised by a mother who struggled with depression herself, depression and anxiety. So I was in a household where, mental health wise was not anything that was healthy at all. It was like a mental decline, right? It was like hearing my mom talk about her depression all the time, and hearing her, seeing her take her medication for her depression, and just all of these things. So growing up, I ended up developing some of those issues myself, partially because of just seeing my example was a depressed person. The person that was raising me was a depressed person, so I kind of just became that kind of shut off depressed person in life. And though, I was an optimistic person too, but I just dealt with depression for various reasons. Jordan says, I've been looking into it for OCD. Oh, awesome. All right, cool. Well, I'm glad that you tuned in today. If you can't stay, and you want the replay, just let me know. I can shoot this over to you if you don't have a whole lot of time. I'm going to try not to go over like 20 or 30 minutes though, because when I talk about things that I'm passionate about, I tend to just rant and go on and on and on and on. But I just wanted to really just tell my story, get to the point, answer any questions that you guys might have, share some specific points, some specific benefits that I've experienced in the past 2 years of working with them, and be able to send this to people and have them actually able to watch it. Because I get questions all the time in my inbox, and I'm constantly, chatting to people, telling them, and I'm like, let me do a video. That way I can just be like, hey, watch this video. I talk a lot about everything. And I also have a guide. So if you guys haven't downloaded my guide yet, and it's completely free, if you want a copy, just let me know. Drop a little mushroom in the comments below, whether you're watching this now or if you're watching this on the replay later. Drop a mushroom and I will message you and I'll send you a guide if you want a copy of that. So let's see, how did I discover this? So I discovered psychedelics in 2015, a different type of psychedelic, DMT. That's completely different. Well, it's very similar to mushrooms, but it was a different experience. It was just like one quick experience that happened, and although it affected me for years, that was my first introduction to psychedelics, or just like these substances. I reflected on it for years, what I experienced, and it made me very interested in using mushrooms, but I never really got around to it, never really had the opportunity. And what you'll find first and foremost is that if you're somebody who is on a spiritual path, that you'll kind of just bump into these medicines, or you'll bump into these substances. A lot of people that you'll hear, like people that go and sit with ayahuasca or different things like this, you'll hear them say that like the opportunity is not really that they planned it out and they kind of sought it out. It's kind of like the medicine sought them out. And what's happening is your soul is bringing you into alignment, into a place where like you're ready to now face maybe things that you've been running from, maybe things you've been burying below, maybe things that you've been avoiding, or whatever. You're just, your soul, your higher self, your whatever you want to call it, is bringing you into a place where you're now ready to now face some things. Jennifer Kelly says it's true. I used to be against this stuff, and now I'm ready. Yeah, same here too. I always had like the, growing up in a Christian and religious home. At first, even cannabis I had a hard time with, I remember my ex-husband now, he was a heavy user of it. And I remember doing research on Google, like trying to prove him wrong. I was like, no, I'm going to find out how terrible this is. Like, you're doing a drug. I can't believe this. And I was so mad, But the more research I did, the more I found that, wait a minute, this actually isn't a drug like they said it was in DARE or at school, but it's actually a medicine that can be utilized specifically, right? Now, everything can be abused, including things that we don't even look at as drugs, like sugar or alcohol or food in general or whatever. Anything and everything can be abused, right? So it's all about the intention behind the use, the guidance that you have when you're using it. You might have heard some stories. Let me fast forward this real quick. I just want the instrumentals. There we go. You might have heard some stories, horror stories or terrible stories of like people, oh my God, I had a bad trip, or I had this terrible time with mushrooms, or, oh, I tried that once and it was, you might hear like negativity or things like that. And don't allow that to scare you, because how I explain it to people is like, this is so much different from like a actual, like a pharmaceutical medicine or things like that, like aspirin. You have something like that, right? You give it to 8 people in a row, and usually it might affect them in kind of the similar way, right? Aspirin is for X. I can't even really tell you what aspirin is for, other than like if the commercials tell you to take it for heart health or something like that, right? But I've never really used stuff like that. I've always been like averse to swallowing pills because of my upbringing. But but it's not like that. It's very unique to you and to your, so everything is gonna, there's so many different things that play a part. So your biology, your chemistry, your current state of mental health, your life experience, your generational experiences, especially for some of the heavier psychedelics or the more potent psychedelics or the higher doses of psychedelics. A lot of people say that we are affected energetically by 7 generations prior to us and 7 generations forward. So, things that your grandmother's grandmother, all the way 7 years past, they didn't sort through their trauma and sort through their mental struggles and sort through the things that they accumulated energetically. Those are now handed down to you, and now you are responsible in dealing with that. So sometimes you might feel like, why do I have this? Or why do I feel this way? Or sometimes the things that we deal with or the emotions that we have and stuff like that, it's not even truly ours to claim. It's something that we're here to just work through and to work out, right? But so we met somebody with these, and I started learning about microdosing and being the researcher that I am. I started doing the research, and I was like, okay, this sounds like it might be something that will help me. At the time, I had just had Nevaeh. Was it Nevaeh? Yes. So this was 2020. I had Nevaeh in 2019. 2020 was coming around. This was just before we realized that, like, oh, there's a pandemic happening and all that kind of stuff. But, I was feeling a little bit of like the postpartum baby blues type of stuff. And but like I said, I had always been like kind of dealing with that. And then also anxiety. I had anxiety all the time, just always, my mental space was just always like, I was a positive person. I was optimistic, but I was always consumed. Like I couldn't just get out of the space of being consumed with like whatever problem I was dealing with. I was always just I felt like if the more that I worried about something, the more I could figure it out and solve it, rather than actually just like learning how to get creative and actually solving the problem. So I was a worrier and I had anxiety, and I also had a little bit of PTSD from a past abusive and toxic relationship that I was in. So things like loud noises or people raising their voice or just like different types of stuff would set me off into like not heart palpitations, but like a heart racing or just like a gut sinking feeling, or like, put me into like kind of like a anxiety attack type of a thing. So I dealt with that as well. And you want to get her out? Thank you, bud. And close the door for me, please. Go, Luna. Thank you, bud. I'll be out in a few minutes. Just go. She could stay. The cat is always interrupting things for me on all these videos. It's okay. But anyhow, so I was struggling in my mental health, just to summarize it, right? I was also someone who, like, all my life I struggled with being, maybe it's not even a struggle, but I identify now that I'm naturally an introvert. I can have a switch that I can turn on in social settings and be social when I need to be, but really I'm naturally introverted. But I was also very shy. So like earlier in my teenage years and in my early 20s, it was hard for me to talk to people, hard for me to connect with people. I just cared so much about what other people thought about me. Just always thinking, always just afraid to do anything because I was, to do a social media, like, am I really going to make that post, or am I going to do this, or am I going to do this in my business, or do that? I had this like conversation going on in my mind. Just maybe you can relate. Let me know in the comments below. Like, have you in the past ever experienced that, where you're like, it just seems like there's like this other person in your mind telling you like, don't do that, or wait, like making you second guess everything, I guess is how I can explain it. Hold on just one second. Let me learn how to address these comments over here as they pop up. Hello to Bethany. You love my tapestry. Thank you so much. It doesn't really show up too good in this lighting. I want to get like one of those cool, whatever, maybe, what is it, like a black light lighting that might make it glowy or something like that. But thank you. Kind of makes me look, if I go like this, it looks like I have like crazy hair, right? But thanks. So once I started to do the microdosing, what I noticed right away, probably like within the first time, was, I felt a little bit of energy, and I felt more energetic, more enthusiastic, just happier that day. I noticed one of the first things that I noticed right away was I stopped procrastinating. And this was over like a few weeks of time of doing it, right? And at that time I started with a schedule, because there's all different types of protocol schedules. I go over this in my guide. There's different types of stacks, so you can use mushrooms along with other mushrooms and other plant medicines depending on what type of a reason you're using it for brain health or regeneration, neuroplasticity and stuff like that, or if you want to use it for enhancing your immune system, or if you want to do it for increasing your athletic performance. We work with athletes a lot of times who they want to really we help them through their mindset and their mentality in whatever sport that they're in. Usually, Shmuel's a martial artist. A lot of times they're fighters or martial artists, and we help them figure out the mental stuff in regards to the game that they're playing. But for me, I stopped procrastinating things, like little things around my house, like stuff that I would just dread, like we hear this whole joke about laundry things, but that was me, like piles of laundry everywhere, or like dishes, or just little stuff, or little little projects, I really know that I need to organize my closet, or I really know that I need to do this, and it's just something that I've been putting off a long time. I just found myself just in a happy, uplifted mood, just doing things that I had been putting off for a while, and I was like, oh, I'm doing this, and okay, cool. So that was one of the big benefits for me, was I stopped procrastinating so much. I just got into activity, and I had that little extra boost in my mood and in my energy to go ahead and get things done that I had wanted to do. Also, inhibitions. So for me, this is something probably everyone could relate to. I'm guessing you guys have probably experienced alcohol at least at one point in your life, right? If you haven't, then you're really not missing out on a whole lot, in my opinion. But when I was young, before I was 21, and shouldn't have even been drinking, I remember I would drink with friends that I shouldn't have been hanging out with, but I would drink with them because I liked the 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 aspect of alcohol that took away the inhibition and made you able to talk to people easier. For me, being a like super shy person, I liked that, and usually I took it a little too far, and that's when you get drunk and have a hangover the next day and stuff like that. Luckily with this, there's nothing like that. Like, you don't have hangovers, you don't feel weird. In fact, you just have this great feeling the next day. And it kind of like each dose, so I go back to the protocol. I was going to mention that. So I started taking a dose one day, and then a break for one day, a break for another day. So 2 days break, and then another dose. So it's like every 3 days that you would take a dose. It's like 11 capsules over a 30-day period. So the days that you're not microdosing, you still feel like a little more positive, a little more uplifted. And for me, the way that I view it is, and in my experience, I don't know how it affects others, but it really, each experience just builds on the other, especially if you're doing specific types of integration. And I can get into just a little bit of that. That might be like a whole other video and training and discussion. But so inhibitions, like I found myself just like singing more and dancing more, not even really caring how I looked. Like, you can ask Shawal, like, we have been together since 2013, and I had a trauma in my life in my early 20s where, as a teenager and as a young person, I really loved singing, and I love to sing, and people have told me that I have a good voice or that I have a nice voice, but someone important to me in my life told me a lot of bad things about, like, just put me down about just me wanting to make music or me wanting to sing and me wanting to do this. And so I just kind of like, I put it away, and I kind of like was scared to like sing in front of anyone, even Shawal. I did not sing in front of him really for a very long, until I really started microdosing. Like, I got comfortable just like singing again, which was one of my passions as a teenager and passion growing up and stuff like that. So I found just like parts of me that I had buried from childhood or from like being a teenager, or things that I was interested in that, I kind of forgot about or whatever, like really deep passions that were, obviously now I look at it now, they were a part of me, but I buried it because of some kind of stress or trauma or something like that, or a negative life experience. That became to just come to the surface again. Kind of like someone was like, hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember this? And like, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. I love that. I started like singing again, dancing, being happier, not caring so much what people thought. And then that's the next point, is like, I stopped caring so much what other people thought. Like, I just realized, like, this is my life, and everyone is going to judge me no matter what. And it doesn't matter if I do the greatest things possible in the world. Even if I just make no mistakes at all, there's still going to be people who don't like me for whatever reason. That's their problem. It's not mine. I really began to sort out that whole thing of like not being afraid of what other people are going to think, and not being afraid of judgment of others. And also, I stopped judging other people so much as well, because we're so afraid of other people judging us. What I discovered is that a lot of times we're so afraid of other people judging us because of how we judge others in our own minds. A lot of times we might, or it might not even be like a mean judgment, but if we see, like, if we're scrolling on our timeline and we point something out about someone, like, oh, her this or his that or whatever, we're automatically like putting that into our mind, where we think other people are going to do that to us, So if I'm a zero judgmental person, whatever, like, you can show me your dirty house, you can show me anything, I'm not going to think anything bad of you or anything. I know people like, they struggle with cleaning their house or whatever. Like, okay, some people are very judgmental about that. Oh, that must mean you're a terrible person in every area of your life or whatever. So like, if I see a dirty house, or someone posts a picture and like there's a bunch of junk in the back, or like whatever, like, I'm not going to judge a person on that. But some people, they do that, right? But those people that judge others in that way, they also most commonly have a fear that they're going to be judged in that way too. So that's one of the like lessons that I actually learned from this, is that we fear that we're going to be judged in the same way that we judge others very often. My beliefs. So a lot of things, what I tell people that are starting this is like, mushrooms will help you do anything that you want to do better. Anything that you want to, like, if you want to become a better person and parent, like for me, it's made me, in my opinion, and I think Shawal will agree with me as well, and probably will my children too, is that I've become a much better parent, a much better mother, more patience, more interest in just doing childlike things, more presence and being in the present moment, and just being able to really like sit. And, in the past wasn't like that. In the past, I would be either anxious, or I would just be like so stressed out over this or so stressed out over that I can't even enjoy like the sitting and trying to color a page with my daughter or something like that. Or, I don't know if any of you can relate to that. It's something similar. But as parents, it's so important for us to be able to make those connections and be in the moment and let go, put down the phone and just like be in that moment with them and create those like quality snaps of like, I always think of the movie, what is that movie called? Oh no, hopefully I can remember it. The movie with all the emotions. If you guys know what I'm talking about, where they have like all the colors and the emotions, and they're the little girl, she moves from one side of the country to the other, and she has to completely redo her life. Why can't I think of it? This happened to me yesterday too. Anyways, if you're in the replay, let me know what that movie is if you know what I'm talking about. But it's very similar to that in where we oh, that's bothering me that I can't think of it. Anyway, I'll put that part of this to the side. I'll go back to the beliefs. So no matter what you want to do, this will make you a better person. Okay, so if you want to become a better parent, you'll become a better parent. If you're working on your athleticism, you'll become a better athlete. If you're an artist, you're going to become more creative. Because the way that it works, I'm not going to talk about like all the scientific jargon and all the things that are happening in the brain. I have a video on that if you would like to hear that portion of it. This is more of like just my personal experience. But what does happen is you create literally new connections in your brain. You're connecting new neurons, you're making new pathways, and you're making it easier for you to be able to create new habits and behaviors in your life. And also, ultimately, create new beliefs in your life. So your whole belief system can change. So this can change anything from your money beliefs to your beliefs about relationships, your beliefs in yourself, just becoming more confident, your beliefs in just what's possible for you in your life and how far that you can go. You can train yourself and you can expand your mind, like literally, and grow your brain into a way where your brain will start to serve you in these areas and these things that you want to do. Inside out. Yes. Thank you. Now I see the comment down there. I had it. I was like, what was it called? I knew it was something like that. Oh yeah. I love that movie so much. It makes me cry every time. But yeah, so you want to create those core memories with your children, right? Well, this mushrooms will help you create those core memories, with yourself, with your children, with anyone that you're with. And that was another thing is like, I just became a much more loving person and just much less judgmental. Like I stopped enrolling into all the belief systems that I had been enrolled and involved in, to where like I just had to say something about anyone else that was doing something differently than me. If I was enrolled into a certain type of belief or certain type of lifestyle or certain type of this, like I just don't have any reason to say anything negative about someone else if they're not doing the same thing as me. I'm just like, oh, okay, happy for you. Like if that's working for you, that's great. I don't feel like the need to like, no, but you should see how this is the way. Like I'm not like that. I'm not like that anymore. I used to be like that. A lot of people are like that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we struggle a lot in our society, is because we're just always trying to get other people to do everything our way. And we think our way is the only way and the only way that's right. And then that's what causes the separation. That's what causes us to just separate ourselves from others and think, well, they're different from me and I'm this and those people over there are that and da-da-da-da-da. And it just goes into like us just being so distracted by disagreeing with each other. Now, this doesn't mean that, if I see somebody doing something that's actually wrong and bad, I'm not going to say something about that. That's not what I'm talking about. Raquel Munoz says that can this be used for healing, like of medical conditions? Yes. So the studies that I've been seeing emerge in regards to that, is there anything specific that you're referring to? I know traumatic brain injuries specifically, any type of brain damage, any type of neurological disorder, things like that. I've seen studies and I've been in forums and communities of people who are seeing, like, for example, there's been people with Parkinson's, brain injuries. There's been people with, Bell's palsy, people who have had strokes that like they're paralyzed on one side of their face, or they have paralysis in one limb or something like that, or they're just dealing with neurological issues. Like they say that they start to use these, whether it's in a small form or a large form, it's varied, whoever, I'm not sure what doses they're taking because I don't know them personally, but I've seen them say like one guy was like, my dad had a stroke and half of his face was paralyzed and he started using mushrooms and he was starting to feel his face again. And I was like, wow. So some of the studies are, they're few and far between, of course, because of where everything's at, or whatever they release to the public where it's at. I'm sure they're a little further than they say that they are. Liver and autoimmune conditions. Okay, so let's go to that subject. So in regards to that, I'm not sure how these specific mushrooms can help with that. Now, there are things like turkey tail mushrooms that might be a little more like specific for those types of things. I know there is I believe it's Paul Stamets. He's a internationally world known and renowned mycologist, and his mother came down with breast cancer. And right away he's like, well, I know what to do, right? You need to take turkey tail mushrooms. And so he got her on the turkey tail mushrooms, and there's a whole story about it. You can go look it up on YouTube. Paul Stamets, turkey tail mushrooms, or it'll probably pop up in Google or YouTube, but he was able to help his mom heal from her breast cancer that she was struggling with. And they also help if you're like going through chemo, or if you're going through radiation or any type of treatment like that, they can help you to really recover from that, so that doesn't completely take you out. Because as we see, so many people, those therapies, they destroy people. They destroy the cancer and they destroy the person. You know, it's not, the modality is not supposed to destroy the person. It's just supposed to destroy the cancer, right? So for that, I would say maybe look into the turkey tail. Now for this, here's what I believe, okay? And this is just as a disclaimer. This is my personal theory. And I'm researching and I'm exploring. I'm asking other people. I'm kind of looking around for different, if there is any journals or articles or anything on this, but I don't really think there is yet. But I think we are going to see some kind of research emerging and coming out that because they program the mind, if the person who is sick or who is, and this is the reason why I believe it, first and foremost, is because if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza or Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton specifically, he's brought the subject of epigenetics to the surface and showed like how, like, hey, you know, the things that ran in our family, they don't have to run in our family. Whatever's in your DNA, like you can have cancer cells, you can have this cell, you can have that cell, you can have these genes, you can have all this stuff. It doesn't mean that it has to turn on and become an active part of your life. Stress in our environment and what we're consuming, like our food and our lifestyle and our thoughts, our mentality and our attitude and what we choose to believe about ourselves and about the world has much more to do with turning on a disease or turning off a disease. So whether you're going to activate it or you're going to, reverse it. So with something like that, here's how I would say from my experience, like if it was me, if I was dealing with that, I would consider microdosing probably, or maybe even having a ceremonial journey to for this reason. So there was a lady by the name of what was her name? Anita Morjani. Yeah, there we go. It's a hard name to remember. But she didn't take mushrooms that I know of. I don't know. Anita, let us know. But she had a near-death experience, right? And before she had the near-death experience, she was in a hospital bed. Her body was filled with tumors. She had like so many things. Her book, what's the name of her book? Let me look it up real quick. But she was like basically on the brink of death. She was saying goodbye to her family. Like everyone was gathered around her bedside. Let me look this up. Anita Morjani. She had a near-death experience. And during the near-death experience, basically she experienced some mystical experience that showed her the reason why she was dealing with the disease and the illness and everything that she was dealing with. And she was like given the option, like, say, hey, you know, you can go back and you can actually heal from this, or you can you can leave this realm basically. And she was like, well, if I'm given the option to go back and I'm able to share this story with others and I'm able to share what I've discovered here in my near-death experience, and I want to go back, you know, I don't want to die. I want to go back. I want to share this with everyone that I know. And so that's what she ended up doing. She wrote a book. It's called Dying to Be Me. There we go. Dying to Be Me, Anita Morjani. But so here's what I think. So if you have a ceremonial experience with mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT or any type of these psychedelics, and you have some kind of a illness that you're dealing with, a lot of times, and this isn't a guarantee or anything like that, but a lot of times you will be met with the thing or the pattern or the circumstance or whatever it is in the psyche or in your spirit or your energy or whatever you really want to label it, the thing that is causing that. Because what a lot of people don't realize, if you don't study things like, what is that other book called? Hold on. There's this text that I study called The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And what it teaches is that all things in the physical realm, including us, including our bodies, including everything that we see, is all an effect. So have you ever heard of cause and effect before? So everything in the physical realm is an effect, and there's a spiritual or a mental cause or an energetic cause. There's like some cause in the place where we can't see. Hold on, let me see if anybody said anything. Okay, cool. So there's a cause somewhere where we can't see. So there's something that happened to us in our childhood, something that happened to us when we were teenagers, something that happened to us at whatever point, right? That put us into a spiral of accumulating energy and that energy getting stuck and that energy choosing a place in our body where our body had weakness and it decided to create disease. That's the whole like energetic theory of how disease kind of happens, right? But then you have the other side of it where it's like there's nutritional, there's like your terrain, so here's my personal take on that type of stuff. So I would say to that question, I would say it's worth looking into. Definitely look into the turkey tail, because that definitely helps with turkey tail. Also reishi mushroom, chaga mushroom, like those are great for the immune system. I would definitely look into those. But psilocybin, I mean, it definitely could, and here's why. Because if you want to change your state from being in a disease, darn it, okay, I gotta speed it up and wrap it up. I didn't realize that my phone battery was so low. Hold on, come back. Hold on, guys. There we go. If you want to change your state, if you want to go from being sick to being well, if you want to go from a lack of health to an abundance of health, if you want to go from one state to another, you have to become a new person. You have to start having new beliefs. You have to start believing something is new and possible, right? You have to even believe, like even the scriptures, the biblical scriptures speak about it, that, is done unto you as you have believed. Like, what does that really mean, right? We have to believe that it's possible for us to even be healed. We have to believe that some new potential in our reality is possible for us to happen. And that's just in anything that we want to change. So when it comes to the mushrooms will help you to reiterate those beliefs. Because when you want to change your belief system, if you want to reprogram your subconscious mind, you need repetition, and you need to construct a new belief and then repeat that belief and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and create some kind of a system for yourself so that you're able to start believing that new thing. And so, like, for example, with Joe Dispenza's stuff, like, he helps people learn how to do deep meditations, get into deep meditative states where you can go in and you can believe in that new potential, and you can experience it in your mind, you experience it in your energy, you feel it in your body, you know that it's already real, it's already happening, it's already done, right? And isn't that what Christ taught? Like, he said, if you ask and then you believe as if it has already happened, that's what's going to happen for you. But if you're asking but you're not seeing it yet, or you're asking and you're not believing in it, and you're asking it but you're not feeling it, and you're asking it but you're doubting it, and you're asking it and you're scared, and you're asking it and you're this, that's where we kind of cut ourselves off from the creative power. You can call it the Holy Spirit, you can call it whatever thing that you want to call it, but there's a creative intelligence that formed you in your mother's womb, formed me in my mother's womb. There's a creative intelligence that every time you get a scrape on your knuckle or your knee or whatever, it just somehow, over time, maybe you need a Band-Aid or something, but it heals, right? So our internal body can heal that way as well. That's what I personally believe. And so with these, it's all about just creating that new belief system. So these definitely can help you do that. They can help you create a new belief system about being more prosperous. They can help you create a new belief system about having a better relationship. They can help you create a new belief system about losing or releasing weight, becoming a healthier person, like whatever it is that you want to do. That's why I love it, because it's so unique. Like, whatever it is that you want to do, like, I can show you how, like, you can start reprogramming your mind and creating a plan of action and creating new habits that you do every day, and just creating a new lifestyle from the inside out, along with these mushrooms, to help yourself stick to the thing. And then that's another thing too, is these will help you stick to whatever you're doing, and it'll help you stop doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. So that's why this helps people with addictions. For me personally, I was able to give up a lifelong addiction to sugar that was passed down to me from my family, and I started just questioning, like, why is it that I'm doing these certain things? And that was the question that went into my mind. Like, why am I eating? Like, I know that this isn't good for me. I know that I tell myself it's just here and there, and it's just a little bit or whatever. You start to ask questions about everything that you believe. You start to ask questions about everything that you do. But in a very good way, just kind of like, why am I doing that? You kind of like see yourself, I call it like the observer effect. You start to get this like third party observer, kind of like hovering over yourself a little bit, not external, like you don't get hallucinations when you're microdosing if it's low. No type of hallucinations, not even any visual anything. Like, I took a microdose today. Do I seem super high and like out of it or anything like that? Like, no, I'm just myself, just a little more, just myself, a little more positive, myself, a little more energetic, myself, a little more loving, myself, a little more patient, like myself. And when you have problems or you have things go wrong in your life, like the past 2 years, I've experienced like some of the best, just like amazing moments where I just stared at nature and was crying because I was like, wow, I never really stopped to like see how beautiful the trees were that are like across the street from us, or like looking at your children or your spouse in a new way of like, just kind of like if you had a near-death experience, right, and you came back, like how grateful you would be for like being alive again, or just like you thought you were going to lose your family, but you realize, oh my God, I didn't lose you guys. Like these are the types of feeling states and emotional states that you get access to that have been, in my opinion, we've been cut off from them because lots of different reasons, right? I can talk for another hour why we've been cut off from these states, but at the end of the day, you know, you're going to be yourself completely. You're not, no, it's not like, one of the most common questions that I get is like, but do you get high? Are you is it like smoking weed or something like that? And for me, no, like I much prefer microdosing. I'm not the type of person who can use cannabis and like still go on with the day and be super productive and stuff like that. It's very rare that I operate like that. Like I need a day where I can just like hang out, chill, do nothing, listen to music, like be creative or whatever. But if I need to like do something and be like completely productive, like that's not for me. But for me, I can microdose. I can do anything that I need to do. I feel like I do it better. I probably do it in a better mood. I don't complain as much. I'm nicer to people, more patient. I'm probably nicer to my family, and just, you know what I mean? It just enables you to do what you want to do easier and more enjoyable. And then it makes those states that you don't want to be in anymore, like the depressed state or the anxious state or the worried state or the doubtful state. Like it makes it harder to access that. And I'll wrap it up with this one experience that I had with a deeper journey. This was like a journey where I, you know, tripped out or went on a trip or whatever you want to call it. It was my very first time, but I remember I was coming back like to reality, or however you want to phrase it. But I remember like I was asking myself, or God was asking me, or however you want to position it. But the question came to me, it was like, try to worry right now. And I was like trying to worry and I couldn't worry. And I was like, try to be, I just kept trying to like test myself, like try to be angry, try to be this, try to be that. And I couldn't be anything but just like love. I just felt completely like I love myself. I love my life. I love my family. I love people. Like I'm not mad at anybody. I don't even want to be mad at anyone. Like, and that right there is just, it for me, I'm like, this is something that whether it's in a large dose or a low dose, you're just getting access once again to the love that we have been disconnected from as a society because of whatever, because of, you know, someone hurt you and you were taught that you can't trust people, or you were, you know, whatever wrongdoing was done to you and you can't, it softens that line that makes you feel like you're so separate from everyone else. And you begin to realize that, you know, we're all connected. We're all together. We're all having the same human experience. We are, me and you, whoever's watching this right now, we might not be related as family, but really, like, we're a part of the human family. You know, and that's how we view things. You know, people that we work with, we don't view people as, you know, clients and customers and this and that. And I think that's why one of the things that the medicine has done for us, we view people as like, if we bring someone on board that's a man or whatever, that's our brother. If we bring someone on board that's a woman, that's our sister. Like we care about people in such a deeper regard now, and we care about we view people as, you know, you're not separate from me. If you have an issue, like wow, that feels like I have that issue. You know, it makes your empathy higher. But if you're already empathetic, it's not gonna like bring you like totally overboard or anything like that. It just, you know, it kind of like evens out, but it helps you to tap into that more. Helps you to tap into unconditional love, helps you to tap into more patience, more kindness. If you have issues with road rage, you probably won't have them anymore. If you're unorganized, you know, maybe you'll become more organized. With the whole OCD thing, you probably will calm down and relax about that. You'll probably see that in just another way where you can not be so OCD. Because what this does, like I said, it just gives you a viewpoint of yourself from another way. Like as if you had like a little friend over here, like, hey, have you ever looked at it this way before? And you're like, have I ever looked at it that way before? No, I haven't looked at it that way before. Or why am I getting so worried about this? Like, and one of the most simplest ways that we can solve our issues that we're dealing with is to get out of a state of fear and a state of panic and a state of fight or flight and all this, and tap back into a creative state, because that's where we get all of our answers. That's where we get all of our inspirations. That's where we get that's where the solutions are, in creativity. But you can't access creativity when you're stressed out and you're anxious and you're having a panic attack and you're depressed or whatever. You can't even access. And that's why so many times we'll just find ourselves dealing with cycles and patterns of things that just keep happening over and over again. Or it's like, haven't I been dealing with this for years? Haven't I been dealing with this for months? If you're asking yourself that type of a question, something like this might help, because it's going to kind of like snap you out of like the same habit and routine and pattern that you've been doing. And it causes you to think of things in a new way. So what I'll probably do, because my phone is dying, otherwise I could do live Q&A, but if you have specific questions, drop them below. I can come into the comments and answer questions. I can do another video where I answer questions, or I can do specific videos on whatever questions come into the comments. But one more question I will take, though. Let me see here. Hold on. What happened to the... Oh my gosh, my comments are doing something weird. I'm trying to scroll down on them, and it's not letting me go to the bottom. Jennifer Kelly says, do they help prevent seizures? I would think that they possibly could. That's what I will say. You know, because anything it seems like anything neurological, it seems like anything to do with neurons and the nerves or things like that, it helps repair those things in the mind. We are talking about psilocybin mushrooms, aka magic mushrooms. Okay, hold on. This is not letting me go to the bottom. Raquel says, yes, my problem is not consistent with the things I need to make a change. Yeah, that's all of our problems, right? That's the human problem, right? We just, consistency, change is scary. Change seems dangerous, literally, to our conscious mind. We think, no, we need to stay the same. Even if it sucks, this is what we've always done. It's just safer over here. But usually it's like, no, you can change. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be anything, even, it's probably not dangerous. You're not going to die if you make this change. But a lot of times we think, like, we get so panicked and so scared that it really feels like we might die if we do something different. So we're like, never mind. I'm just going to stay doing what I've been doing, even if it's miserable. Jarvis says, I've recently started drinking mushroom coffee. I can really tell the difference. Nice. Yeah. So yeah, if you are drinking coffee, I would definitely recommend drinking some mushrooms with the coffee, because that's going to help to regenerate things and bring things into a more balanced state with the caffeine. I think caffeine, you can overdo caffeine, but caffeine might not be so stimulating if you have like other nootropics in with it, right? And there could actually also be some benefits too. I used to be a really big fan of caffeine too. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm going to go in and answer the questions that are in the comments, and I'll probably end up making another video. If you guys liked this, let me know. If you know anybody that has been asking questions about this or who might benefit from it, feel free to share. And also, if you haven't downloaded my guide yet, it's free. Just let me know, drop a mushroom in the comments, and I will send it over to you absolutely free into your inbox. But I appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoyed our talk today. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next live.